Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have James Nelson from New York City with us. And James, it's great to have you. I'm just pleased to kind of hear how you got from Madison, Wisconsin to New York City and into commercial real estate. So if you could give us a little history, that would be great.
Wow. Well, first of all, Bruce, thank you so much for having me on the show. As a fellow podcaster, I know how much work goes into this, so we just really appreciate all the great content that you're putting out there. So my story is largely about luck in the sense that I was going to Colgate in upstate New York, small liberal arts school. And as an English major, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after college. And fortunately, one of our alums, Paul Massey, had posted a position at the Career Service Center for a sales associate. I didn't even know what real estate really was at the time. Today, if I was looking for a job, without experience, I would have had a much tougher time. But back then, it certainly wasn't as competitive. But I had a great feeling about the founders, both Paul Massey and Bob Knakal. I've stayed close with and mentors of mine. And lo and behold, they offered me a position, and that was it. And afterwards, they joked after I'd been there for a couple months that only 2 people applied for the job, and I was their second choice. So we still have a laugh over that. I realized that I didn't answer the first part. And yes, I spent my first 10 years in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. My dad's a doctor. And then he was transferred to Bethesda, Maryland, where he actually was working at the Washington Hospital Center. And so we lived in Bethesda, Maryland, where I swam and ended up going to Colgate for the education, but also to swim there. So that kind of brings you up to speed.
So were you a long distance swimmer or a sprinter?
No, I was a sprinter, and I still try to get in the water 2 or 3 times a week. And as much as I try, the distance thing is still a challenge. But I'm enjoying it more now, and I'm starting to get into some open water swimming, which is fun as well. Maybe not up in I hear about the swim to Alcatraz. I don't know if maybe I would do it with a wetsuit. I don't know.
I think they all wear wetsuits, so yeah, no, it's not. Well, you drink a lot of water, I hear, but anyway, it's not that far, but it is cold. So anyway, since your boys are out here, or one of your boys is out here, maybe you can try that one of these days. And they're swimmers.
Yes, they could definitely do it. They'd be much more equipped than I am. They play water polo, but certainly spend plenty of time swimming in playing that.
Yeah. So you got into investment sales right away?
Yeah. So Massey Knakal, we were a boutique sales firm in New York that, and really, again, to Bob and Paul's credit, they had found this niche, kind of small to mid-sized building sales. The big shops at the time were handling the big, trophy office buildings, but there was a lot of this middle market stuff, apartment buildings, smaller office, retail development. And they went in, they said, okay, we're going to take New York City, we're going to divide it up into territories, we're going to become the experts, we're going to focus on these neighborhoods, we're going to represent the sellers, we're going to put the property out there, we're going to get maximum price. And, when I joined, again, they were probably, 15 years into the company's growth. Fast forward 17 years later, when we sold the company to Cushman and Wakefield, we were selling 4 times the amount of properties as the next brokerage firm. I mean, think about that in any market, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's New York City. I mean, these are really competitive markets. To do 4 times the amount of volume, I mean, we were just in a whole nother class. Now, again, when you added up our, say, 400 sales a year, the aggregate consideration was called $3.5–4 billion. So we weren't doing like the mega deals, but we certainly did a lot of them. And I think Cushman appreciated that. So I went on to Cushman. I had 3 great years there. We did a lot of sales. And then I got this opportunity to build out Avison Young's investment sales platform here in New York. And when I explain Avison Young to people, I tell them it's really the best of both worlds between a Massey Knakal and a Cushman and Wakefield from my experience. In that we are privately held, so I'm one of 750 owners of the company. So it's great to have a seat at the table. But we're also global and we're full service. We have 120 offices around the world. We've got 60 in the U.S. We are full service, which I think is a great benefit to our client.
So in those early years, I assume you spent a fair amount of time cold calling.
I did. Yeah, a tremendous amount of cold calling. Although we really tried to make them warmer calls. We were very big on market information. So I still remember we send out mailers almost every single month. We had our quarterly newsletters. We sent postcards out on properties, like a lot of direct mail. It's I can't remember the last time we sent out hard copy mail. Probably be a good reason to start doing it again. But by the time we called, I'd say, this is James Nelson from Massey Knakal. I'd say, hey, of course I stopped sending all the mail. You're jamming up my my mailbox. But no, I think they even though I was calling sometimes newer to the business and maybe it was an initial outreach. I mean, literally, you couldn't walk down a street without seeing a Massey Knakal sign on a building. So I think people were generally interested to hear what we had to say.
Well, so I'm curious, did the West Coast folks come out there? The investment groups come into New York City from the West Coast, the folks that were doing apartment sales and so forth?
Well, it's interesting. I know Marcus and Millichap, and they certainly have a big presence here in New York as well. But I mean, they were obviously founded on the West Coast, big center there. And I mean, look, they certainly have a presence here that they were looking to build on. But it's look, New York is certainly a market unto itself. It can be a very challenging market to break into from a brokerage standpoint, just because it's so specialized. And so, not to say that national firms haven't been or global firms haven't been successful here, but you really have to have kind of the boots on the ground and the expertise to have success here.
So what's your kind of current methodology? Are your folks doing as much cold calling these days, or what's the methodology?
Yeah, so in New York, we have a team here of 24 brokers, and they are actively reaching out. I would say the bulk of the outreach is to known investors who have been seeing our information. That being said, the juniors on the team are still, in many cases, calling door to door, especially when we've been retained on an assignment. But for myself personally, this is really a business about relationships. And so I find myself, especially now, in taking on this new national role as heading up U.S. investment sales, I've been spending a lot more just one-on-one time meetings, sitting down with investors, talking about, I know what you're looking for in New York. Let's talk about what else you're solving for across the country. So that's where I'm spending the bulk of my time now.
So your new role there is basically reaching out to customer base, to the investors, to the folks that are owning property now, not necessarily hurting the brokers in your group.
Correct. Yeah, it's leadership, but it's on the deal side where we're out there actively working on assignments. So yes, my role is very much a client-facing, business generating role.
Yeah. Well, and you're doing some nonprofit work. I like your work. You're working with the New York City SparkYouth group.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's an incredible organization that I've been involved with for over 20 years. It used to be called the Catalog for Giving. Now we rebranded to SparkYouth because I guess no one shops out of a catalog anymore. But the idea is that we're investing in small to mid-sized charities that benefit at-risk kids here in New York City. And so, we're looking for charities to support for 3-year periods. It's very difficult for these organizations to get longer term funding. So we want to give them valuable runway at a critical time in their growth. And we're looking for organizations that have been in existence for under 10 years and have a budget. It used to be under $1 million. I think we might have bumped it up to $2 million. But this is really investing again in these organizations at a critical time in their growth. And it just, it's exciting because first of all, you want to give back to the city that you serve, again, kids and supporting, their growth is vital. But the way we're doing this, I think, can really make an impact. And that way, when we go out and raise money from our donors, they know that they can really make an exponential impact. As we've already done the diligence. I mean, you look at these organizations that we support over the years, pretty much all of them are still in existence. And in the venture capital world, that would be, unheard of if you said all the companies that I've invested with in over 30 years are still in existence. But, we really look for, strong leadership and obviously, make sure that they're on solid grounds for growth. But we would love one day to see this replicated because I'm sure, in the Bay Area, I'm sure there's a need, for this kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
But, who knows? Maybe one day we'll be out your way as well.
Well, that is very interesting. Are you generating donations from the real estate community? Where are you finding your funds?
We are. A large part of it is from the board. From the real estate community, because what you'll find is that our board is probably 3/4 real estate. Every year at our banquet, inevitably we're usually honoring one or two, superstars from the real estate community. So it kind of becomes the event. And sometimes we kind of wrestle with that and we say, is this, an okay thing that we're so heavy real estate? Should we diversify more? But again, I think it gives people a reason to be there. Just before we jumped on for the show, I was telling you about the Bay Area Roundtable. So I was out at Half Moon Bay last week, and it was incredible. They've been putting on this event, I think, for 20 plus years to benefit autism. So they benefit this organization called PACE. But it's a real estate event in that they start the day with having roundtable discussions, then they have a real estate panel, then they have a cocktail party, and then they open it up for a dinner and live auctions. And I was like, this is amazing. People want to show up anyways to discuss real estate, and then do it for a great cause. So I love the idea of kind of marrying real estate and charity, and I think you notice that I'm. Wednesday. By the time people hear this recording, it will have already happened. But SparkYouth is doing an event on generative AI in real estate, and so again, it's going to be a panel that people would probably go to anyways. But we're going to charge a ticket, and all proceeds are going to SparkYouth.
That's fantastic. So have you heard of Homeboy Industries?
I have not.
Anyway, they're an LA-based group. I was just down there last Thursday and Friday. One thing we haven't talked about is I've taught public speaking at Stanford for 20 years, and so they had invited me down to do a public speaking group. They are the largest gang revitalization group in the world, basically, led by Father Gregory Boyle. But anyway, you might look that up because I don't know if they have a branch in New York City, but I suspect they do. So anyway, it would be an interesting combo to kind of talk about.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing mission. And that's wonderful that you give back time to do that.
Yeah, no, it was great. So, well, just for fun, since we're kind of down to the wire here a little bit, what's your favorite sandwich?
Well, I would say anything from Fat Sal's, and I love coming out to the West Coast, and especially my son is at SC, so we love grabbing a sandwich there. The regular sandwich is probably a foot long, and the amount that they're able to accomplish in that sandwich is unbelievable. Last time I was there was around Thanksgiving, and they had kind of turkey, gravy, cranberry. They had the whole Thanksgiving dinner wrapped up in a sandwich. So I don't know how they did it, but delicious.
Well, and it sounds like the favorite person to eat that with would be your son.
Yes, for sure. Yeah,
your oldest son of 3.
Yes.
Yeah, the water polo man. Yeah.
That's
Anyway, well, this has been very fun. James, where would people get a hold of you?
So jamesnelson.com is the site that I built out. It's actually not about me. It's really to help people who want to invest in real estate. So that's where you can get my contact information. That's where you can find out about my book, The Insider's Edge to Real Estate Investing, and also where you can find my podcast episodes. Although, as you know, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, and all over. But jamesnelson.com kind of aggregates everything. And then my social media is James Nelson NYC.
Well, let's back up for just 1 second. Give us one tip from your book that you might advise for either real estate salespeople or for real estate investors or owners.
Yeah, so I wrote this book in mid 2020, and I didn't really know how relevant and how it would stand the test of time. But finding a great opportunity in real estate investing, one of the things that I find that buyers rarely ask or find out is, why is the seller selling? What is the seller's motivation? Do they have the ability to transact? There's a lot of opportunities out there, but you have to know what to look for. So that's definitely just one of the things that I talk about in here. The other thing I talk about is having great relationships with brokers. So investment sale brokers, whether it's on market, off market, the majority of the time, it is very rare that a buyer is going to source a seller direct, right? There's usually going to be a broker involved. So I really talk about how to cultivate relationships with brokers, because when they have a great opportunity, you want to be that first call. So that was just 2 tips from the book. But this really, I wanted to write this book because for 20 years, people always ask me, James, what's the book that teaches you how to invest in real estate? And, there's a lot of the kind of rich dad, poor dad, there's textbooks, but not a book that you can kind of read through and understand from start to finish with how this works. So that's why I wrote it.
That's fantastic. I may go buy it right now.
I'm going to send you a copy.
All right. I would appreciate that. That's great. Well, this has been very good, very fun, and very informative. So I look forward to seeing you out here when you're in the Bay Area next, and maybe we can catch coffee. That'd be fun.
That would be wonderful. Great to connect, Bruce. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.